We good? First question. Let's go. I thought we were starting with an easy question. Favorite color, food, fluffy cats. Uh, okay, let's go. I'm a journalist and researcher. My focus is on missing persons, true crime, aviation, and how it is reported in the media. With the use of thorough deep dive analysis, my aim is to assist a modern media audience to dissect, navigate, and understand what is fact and reality, rather than the vagaries of wild speculation and conspiracy theories. It happens when a case first captures the public's attention. I'm a published author of 12 books of fiction and non-fiction, and a broadcaster with Radio Espial. You'll find many interviews here on this channel I've conducted with experts and family members directly involved in the cases I've covered, and I'm blessed to have met many amazing people in life. I prefer to go to the well of source rather than drowned in a sea of speculation and sensationalism prevalent today in cases that reach mainstream media networks. And hey, I'm also a poet. I was born in Ireland. I now live in the Netherlands for many, many years. My catch is let's speak, let's research, and let's experience together. What do you mean I can't leave? What? Small questions. Oh, here. I thought we were doing a short, like 30 seconds or, a minute. They want to know more. Okay. Belt in. Don't tell me to put the cans on. I know. Right. What more did he want to know? Yeah. I think when I was young, lots of kids want to do loads of different things. I went through a stage of I wanted to be a civil engineer. I wanted to be a pilot. I tried twice to get into Aer Lingus in Ireland. I did get to the last 25 of 15 available candidates. Didn't quite make it. Long story. It's kind of how I get into aviation. Journalism was the question, was it? How did I get into journalism? Soon after leaving school, I went to work in my dad's job in a dairy, delivering milk wholesale. In addition to that, I wanted to focus on, I was big into writing then. I already knew that that's what I wanted to do, writing, journalism. I was very, very lucky in the late 1980s to have a wonderful tutor called Eugene Maloney. And he taught me a hell of a lot about journalism. We shared an awful lot in common. We were both big into the Irish gig scene, music scene, and yeah, that's kind of how I got into journalism. I studied with him. Um, yeah, and that's really how it all unfolded. I remember one of the final projects I did with Eugene was, and this was all because we hadn't been out in the field. This was all fictitious. So, and Eugene also did an awful lot of features, which I was also interested in. Interviewing people, that kind of thing sparked me. Um, and he asked on a project, like, what would your subject matter be? And I was at that time big into Samuel Beckett, people like James Joyce, and so I focused on Beckett. And he said, do an interview with Samuel Beckett. Now at this time, this was 88, 89. I think Beckett was literally in his final years. He actually passed away in 89. So no, I wasn't going off to Paris to interview Beckett. So I had to create a fictional interview with Beckett. And I wrote it. And Eugene's synopsis of it was, I wish you could have went and interviewed him when he was alive, because you understand your subject matter. You have empathy for the person that you're interviewing, and you explore and deep dive the facts. And that taught me immediately where I was going. And after that, he sent me off rightly to where every cub journalist should go, which was the forecourts in Dublin. So you cover cases, everything from somebody stealing a loaf of bread out of a shop, to more serious cases of criminality. And in that year, I learned so much at the end of the course. Yeah, and that's kind of how I got into journalism. It was always there, and yet the situation in Ireland led me away from Ireland, and I left Ireland and I went to the UK, different parts of the UK, and did, as anybody at that time in the late 80s, did a whole host of different jobs, from working on film and TV advertisement sets, doing all sorts of odd jobs. I eventually somehow stumbled into working in retail and logistics, and that's where I originally started. And it certainly didn't end there. After I got back from the UK, I was a bit of a lost sheep. I think when you first leave home, you never quite find your home, and you're always looking for your true home. In 1990, I published my first book. It was a very short piece of fiction called Arcadia. And yeah, I was still trying to find my place. I was still following the journalism. By then, I had a full-time job in retail. Then I met a work colleague. I had always been big into music. We established a company to help young Irish bands kind of work upon the ladder of producing demo tapes, getting their first gig, moving on to approaching record companies. I very much dealt with the marketing side, the media side, while my colleague dealt with the day-to-day, the gigs, the recording stuff. And that really went on for good 4 or 5 years until the late 80s, when eventually kind of that need to get back into writing and journalism just captured me, and that's what I realized that I absolutely wanted to do. Um, yeah. So, as all things, uh, I got married, young child, uh, work, getting on with it. I had started a couple of novels at that time that I hadn't quite finished. Um, and the journalism kind of went into the background. I was kind of trapped in a sense of what was happening in my immediate life. And yeah, I got to a stage where it wasn't a great time. I wasn't very creative at that period, and I was looking for something, and I didn't quite know what it was. Yeah, um, life is life. Things move on. Lots of things happened. 2012, 2013. I left Ireland, moved to the Netherlands with my eventual wife. Um, yeah, and a lot of what I was doing at the time, the published consultancy, journalism, started to seriously take over. That was the first time I made that perilous step of not having a full time job and concentrating on just journalism and publishing consultancy to earn a cent. Um, yeah, 2004 to 2010 was probably my what I would consider my foundation years as to where I am now and what took off. I'd completed two novels, eventually published. I was getting more and more back into journalism, examining more true crime, missing persons. I was eventually finding my feet and creating something, an avenue or a channel more that I could do. Interestingly, this channel, the YouTube channel, actually I started in 2009. Although I didn't pursue it much in the first years, that was the, shall we say, the emanation of it. Um, yeah, social media, mainstream media. Um, I always think it odd that, particularly when I dealt with authors creating the proverbial platform and promoting their books and that kind of thing, and myself as a journalist, and obviously having to be aware of marketing. I was aware of all that when I created this channel, but in an odd sense, I've probably broken much of the rules and advice that I would have given myself. I'm aware of them all. But again, it goes back to, I want to grow something organically. If you like something, you like something, and you give it a like. If you subscribe to a channel, it's because you're into the content that's there and you enjoy it. I have gotten long away from filling my YouTube content with, starting with, like and subscribe and, intros and, buttons, and it's just, I'm just not into that. I even as an author, as a published author with traditional publishing houses, I was never big into that stuff. I'm kind of a conundrum in that sense. I'm that classic writer who just wants to write, wants to speak, research, and wants us all to experience together whatever we're looking at and whatever we're interested in. And it's wherever it takes us. But most importantly, it needs to be wherever it takes us together. Wow, these questions are... what did I learn then? I learned about empathy for people. I learned the value of people, having loved ones, family and friends around you. Something I hadn't thought about an awful lot prior to that. I was quite stoic and uptight and kind of too focused, and yet in many ways not focused in the previous 10 years. To a degree. I don't apologize for that. The YouTube channel is a bit all over the place. I have often considered subbing out and creating new channels to do different things, to cover the aviation side, the MH370 case, to cover the true crime, to cover the writing and publishing, my poetry piece. But look, I've kind of grown into this, and I appreciate that as a journalist, that I have to accept that somehow I've fallen into that. I have learned from people I've worked with, colleagues over many years, that you don't realize, it's, you become the brand. People know you and go to you to ask, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? What's your perspective on this? And so that's kind of why I haven't separated the channel. So there's aviation there, there's the world of writing and publishing, which I probably don't do as much now. There's my own poetry and fiction and recitals. There's the true crime and missing person cases, which probably is my main focus of the channel now. And just, I'm a firm believer in, don't force things. Let the people talk. Let things grow organically and go where it takes you. And that's just what I do, and that's just what Mick Rooney, the YouTube channel, is about. I just let it go where it goes. Whatever happens, God knows what I'll be talking about in 2 or 3 years' time. It is what it is. Well, 2005 to even 2012, 13, social media wasn't really a big thing as such. I dabbled at the very early stage, 2005, 2006, with Facebook, which was the big rising thing at the time. I was still paper orientated for research, libraries, that kind of thing. I was still doing my true crime research. I really hadn't formulated in my mind what I wanted to do. One thing I kind of got into more and more because of the writing and publishing, I started with as everybody does, a proverbial blog that became much, much more than I ever thought it would become. And it was about writing and publishing, with a particular focus on self-publishing and the changes in the industry. And I focused on that for quite a number of years. I set up the independent publishing magazine, and I grew and grew that, and that was a marvelous time. I had thousands of followers and readers of it. It was a wonderful experience that took me all over parts of Europe, to the United States, to speak and talk about my experience of self-publishing, the industry. And it was a wonderful experience. But now for me, it's just a phase and a part of what I did, and not quite where I am now. Here, what kind of question is that? What'll I wish for when I die? I don't know. I think I will be one of those people, although I haven't done the funeral, burial, cremation. Will I be pushing up the daisies, my hand rising above the soil? But yeah, throughout life, I'll probably be one of those people going, tell me, was MH370 ever found in the southern Indian Ocean? Tell me, have we set up that installation, life on Mars idea? Did we ever solve, this mystery, that mystery? Was such and such person ever found? That's probably that's probably the only people, the only thing you won't keep me quiet from when I pass away. Can we do fluffy cats now, and favorite colors? What? What do you mean, what's me favorite color? And fluffy cats? Jesus, a policeman wouldn't ask me that. Did anybody think of scripting this thing before we fucking started? I really have to do this, do I? Okay. apparently you now have to like, subscribe. Apparently there are buttons there. Click the notification bell. Apparently it's a bell, sort of, bell symbol, and follow me or stuff like that, so I can, yeah, whatever. Do you know what? God bless you all. I'll see you in the next video. Thank you. Take care and be safe.